Hello and welcome everybody into another edition of the Sun Solar Panel. I am Greg Esposito. Ahoy hoy. Tim Tompkins will be joining us eventually, we promise. So you don't have to just deal with the two of us. My cohort in
He does
crime.
not have the coronavirus. He's dealing with an AC issue.
Yeah, which is we're not even getting into. But yeah, and my co-host and partner in crime, Dave King. Dave, how are you, man?
Pretty good. Hope
Eh,
everyone's doing great after that huge Suns win on Friday night.
I have never been more excited that we don't do this in person and that I'm in a makeshift studio with everything going on. And hearing you coughing and sneezing right before we went on, I'm glad we're sequestered, my friend.
Oh no. That's just my old man stuff.
Oh well, we know.
I just cough and sneeze a lot. You've known this for 3 years, Greg.
The
That's
throat
my old man
clearing,
stuff.
yes.
I am perfectly healthy. Although the Phoenix Suns and the NBA is starting to get pretty worried about this coronavirus stuff, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I saw Shams Charania tweet out last night that the NBA has actually sent out memos to their teams to prepare to play games in empty stadiums with only extremely necessary personnel in
Like the
place.
media.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure
These
you
people
got.
still have to know what happened.
I'm sure we're talking the broadcast groups and not guys that run blogs. Unfortunately, I don't
Oh,
think I think you're non-essential personnel at this point. But it'll be. I wonder if they'll do like Skype post-game press conferences for the media that likely won't be in there.
that's a really good idea,
Yeah,
actually. YouTube live press
yeah. Like,
conferences.
it's gonna
When
be.
we can be the ones commenting on the asking questions.
It is going to be a very weird
You should
experience if
send them
they.
your technology.
I
Send
will.
Julify your technology here, Greg, that gets us live, and they can do the same thing. I'm sure they need some help with that.
I'm pretty sure that they've blocked any communications that come from me after my time there. No, I'm just kidding. But it will be a very odd
Oh, you're
experience if NBA games are played in front of absolutely no crowd. It'll be kind of like hosting this show where nobody listens to it.
It'd be kind of like playing pickup in the summer for these NBA players,
Yeah.
and then Devin Booker will get even more mad when he's double and triple teamed.
Yeah, I mean, and at this point, are refs essential because they can't get any of the calls right? So maybe we should just
They should
have the
just
league
call
do it
the
like
fouls on
pickup.
the honor system by
Yeah,
the players, right?
yeah, just do it like that. I wonder. I really wonder though. Do you pump in crowd noise so it's just not such a weird
Could
experience
you
for the
imagine
players?
just this this cavernous
Oh
stadium?
yeah.
I know LeBron was asked about it last night. I saw a little clip on shared on Twitter that he said he wouldn't even play if the fans weren't there. I'm like, whatever. The Suns players were much more pragmatic about it. They're like, look, man, if that's what we need to stay healthy, then I'll do whatever that's above my pay grade. Well, it's not above Devin Booker's pay grade, but it's definitely above his scope of control.
Well, yeah, LeBron, come on, you're not going to halt a
The only
billion
one
dollar
above Devin
business.
Booker's pay grade is Robert Sarver right now.
Oh, I don't know. He's not making that much money anymore since he retired from the bank, right? So
Oh yeah, hey, but he will be making more money next year, won't he? Because the season ticket prices are jumping
well,
sky
you
high.
gotta pay for a brand new renovated arena somehow, right? Even though the city's paying for
Wait
most
a
of
minute,
it.
yes. So let's talk about that for a second. This is a little bit of a deviation. Our intro was supposed to be about coronavirus and then Splash Volcano and then going into more fun stuff. Let's talk about the season ticket prices. So I've got some friends who are season ticket holders. God love them. They've stayed season ticket holders this whole time, or at least joined now because the ticket prices have been flat for a few years, but they're also playing in a dilapidated stadium relatively. Now, when the city commits 150 million public dollars, and this is just tourism dollars. It's not like you and me are going to be paying for this arena, Greg. It's tourists who come in to visit us, like family and friends, and that is going. 150 million is going to the Suns to pay for the renovation, and then the Suns only have to pay overages, and the Suns only have to pay for the practice facility that's going up on Camelback, which was their optional. And so that's maybe a total of another 100 million. That's a lot, but still, it's not the 150 that the city's putting in, or the tourists are putting in. And yet now Robert Sarver is raising ticket season and Section 116 tickets that were going for $60 a piece or so are going to go up to about $100 next year.
Well,
that's a 60% increase.
They may get to play in front of a pretty much empty arena anyways then, if
well,
they're going to raise the prices that much.
Because the folks I've heard from are not going to renew their season tickets at this point anyway. It's possible that the Suns make some big moves in the summer, people will renew. And it's really all about the bottom line, right? So if the stadium if they end up selling as many season tickets to other people as they did this past year, then win-win for the Suns. But if they end up having to give those tickets away, then it's a lose-lose for the Suns. So this might give a little bit of pressure to Sarver, who will pass it down to James Jones to make some splashes this summer, which could help or hurt the Suns. I remember last time Robert Sarver really pushed hard was the summer of 2010.
No, it was
about that summer.
I heard. I think it was the year that they signed Tyson Chandler, where it was the last time.
Sure, he pushed hard there.
Yeah, and led to bad decision making that didn't turn out with the big
also the Eric Bledsoe holding out, signing Isaiah Thomas instead summer, and then that's all after the Hakeem Warwick replaces Amari Stoudemire summer. So we'll see how this summer goes based on that. But these season ticket price hikes are incredibly obnoxious.
Yeah, nobody's going to pay that because they're sitting in a slightly nicer seat with a bigger jumbotron. It comes down to, are you winning on the court? The building does not matter. The building was not preventing people from coming to games. The building wasn't the problem. It's the on-the-court product. And until you fix that, you can't justify that kind of a season ticket raise. The renovation kind of, I look at it and I go, okay, it's nice for people with a lot of money because there's fancier bars and stuff. The seats will be a little cushier, that you'll be able to see a jumbotron a little bit better, but that's not going to impact the average fan outside of an increase in ticket prices. Get out there and make this team a winner again, and then it's palatable to pay more for tickets.
Right. As soon as you make a playoff appearance, then you can raise prices for the next year and people will understand. Yeah. How about sniffing the playoffs for once first?
Yeah, well, they probably consider this the sniffing the playoffs year, so it was justifiable. Look,
they did just hit 25 wins for the first time in 5 years.
They're going to go. Look,
it's going to take 40-some to make the playoffs.
They're going to go. Look, it was one of the bigger turnarounds in the NBA this year. We justify it. So, well, plus that Devin Booker extension is kicked in, so you got to find a way to.
40% more wins, 40% more price on the season tickets. I guess that's what matters to them.
It's like the worst kind of special offer. Every percentage point we improve our wins, you're paying that much more next year. Suns basketball, get excited!
Basketball.
We are extortionists. Yeah. And we've gone completely off the rails. But one last coronavirus thing. Last night, Mikal Bridges has a big block. I think it was in the fourth quarter, early in the fourth quarter. Ball goes in the stands. He goes to chase it. And what does he do? He high-fives like 5 fans. And I'm like, no, that's like the last thing they tell you to do right now.
Go get the sanitizer. Go get the sanitizer.
Right. They need a ball boy that all he does is just give sanitizer to each guy
I don't know
if
it was
break.
Gina, Mizell, or Dwayne, but whoever sits down there on courtside noticed that there's a hand sanitizer bottle right by the Suns bench now, which is great. But it's embedded right next to the thing of powder and the mouth guards and all that stuff that are all just as gross as you can possibly get.
Just slather it all in hand sanitizer. I actually think our friend Tim Tompkins may be in the room. Timmy, are you there?
Yeah. The joys of being a homeowner, gentlemen. Apologies for the delay.
Yeah. Well, as long as you don't have that coronavirus, that's all that matters.
Yeah, no coronavirus, just a heater / AC that still doesn't work. And
I feel like such a goofball that I still, every time I hear coronavirus, I chuckle to myself thinking, are we talking hangover or are we talking some pandemic?
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know that anybody's ever drank enough Corona to give themselves a hangover. That is some real terrible beer. You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
like, not remotely good.
I have had the Dos Equis virus, but I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, Dos Equis virus is possible. Coronavirus is like, all right, I'll have one, and then that's good enough.
For Corona beer, though, they literally have seen a big drop in sales.
I bet they have. I actually haven't seen their commercials going
They
on
really
anywhere.
have.
So
By the-
catch me up, guys. What did we intro with? You
We entered with coronavirus and playing in front of nobody, and then Suns ticket price hikes. Dave veered off to the left, and I ranted about that.
that
Surprise.
seems about
So
right.
we're still
let's
waiting to
talk.
actually start the real show, Tim.
So let's talk about one of the greatest games in NBA history from Mr. Aron Baynes.
Mr. 5 and 5, a career 5.5 rebound guy.
I mean, it is. So, Dave, you got these stats. Thank you so much for doing the show notes for today. But Aron Baynes, greatest game in history by a starter. No starting center has ever hit 9 threes in a game. No Aussie has ever scored so many points, that being 37, higher than Mills and Patty
Ben
Mills
Simmons.
and Ben Simmons with 34. And no player of any size has ever posted 37 points, 9 threes, 16 rebounds, and 2 blocks. You take out the blocks, and it's still only James Harden. So arguably, Aron Baynes, and it's just why this team is wild, man. So we have had a hell of a week where the Suns have just been trash. We've had the Suns play amazing basketball. We see them go up 20 points, somehow lose it. So you see the amazingness of this team in a game. You see the absolute shithole that this team can be. You see them lose to bad teams. You see them beat good teams. This is the wildest season. I don't even know what to expect when I'm watching games. I have no idea how it's going to turn out.
What's really funny is that the team is still just 25 and 38. And this is a franchise that has 29 playoff appearances in their first 42 seasons, and let's just ignore the last 10. But 29 playoff appearances in the first 42 seasons. Historically great offensive teams, made 2 different NBA finals, had some of the best point guards in the history of the game. And yet this Suns team this season is doing things that no other Suns team has ever done before. One thing I did not put on the stats for you, Tim, was no one has ever made more threes in a game than for the Suns as a franchise than Aron Baynes is 9. That's been done by 3 other players, one time Rex Chapman in the playoffs. There was also a Channing Frye game where Channing Frye had 9 threes in a regular season game. And then the third one is escaping me right now.
It was, I believe it was Dan Marley. No,
probably.
Or was it Quentin Richardson? I think it was Quentin Richardson.
Oh, Quentin. It was Q Rich during his one season with the Suns. So, I mean, this is just incredible. And then just a slight deviation here because I love doing this. But Devin Booker and Ricky Rubio each had 10-plus assists last night for the fifth time this season. No Suns team in history, other than 2 other duos, Wilt with Kevin Johnson in them, have ever had more double-digit assists by 2 starting guards either. I mean, some of these records, they're threes. They made 19 threes last night. Second most in franchise history. They took 42 threes, third most in franchise history. It's just weird what this team is to support you, Tim. It's just weird.
It's also important to understand when we're looking at the record, and I don't have the specific statistics in front of me, but on games decided by 1 possession, they're like 2 and 9 or something along those lines. And while a lot of that is poor execution down the stretch, there's a lot of basketball that's also luck. And even just happenstance, the Suns should win 50% of those, right?
Exactly. Historically, when people do long studies over multiple teams, multiple seasons, it's a 50-50 proposition if the final shot goes in or not. But for each team, like obviously shots themselves are only a 30 or 40% proposition in
right, but whether or not
moments,
you're winning or losing those ones.
Whether you're the winner or loser is basically a 50-50, and the Suns are 2 and 8. So yeah, there's that, and Basketball Reference uses that kind of modeling to say that the Suns actually should be in ninth place in the West and just outside the playoff picture right now, but they've lost too many of these games.
It is unbelievable how Jekyll and Hyde this team is. They're very much like Nick Cage. I mean, you can be Oscar award winning, and then you can do a movie that you're shocked that it was anything other than a paycheck, and that's how even in 1 week, we're not talking this 1 week we've seen that from the Phoenix Suns, losing to Detroit in awful fashion, coming back playing great against Toronto, and then crushing Portland. Even in the Portland game, you saw how Jekyll and Hyde they can be, where they have a huge first quarter, they give up a huge run by Portland in the second, and then they come out
20-0 run.
Yeah,
they went from 23 up to 3 up.
Yeah, and then they come
wild.
Then they come back in the third, and they run up the score again. It is insane how much things vacillate with this team. And Aron Baynes last night, where the heck has that been? I mean, if he had spread that over the last 4 weeks, the Suns might actually still be in this. It was part of them
Aron
disappearing.
Baynes, the 9 threes that Aron Baynes made on Friday night matches the total threes he's made in 2020. Before last night, he made 9 total threes over more than 2 months.
And his disappearance is a huge reason why this team fell out of the race. Like this.
Yeah, he's been dealing with injuries. He actually had a deep bone bruise of some sort in his hip. It wasn't just a hip flexor or anything like that. And those things take a while to heal. So he's had some injuries. He says he's feeling really good now. He's feeling best he has since the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I would guess so. I'd imagine he's feeling pretty damn good after Friday night. He finally, so and Ozzy making up for the fact that we had Luke Longley
step back.
Yes, the whole thing.
Unbelievable. It wasn't just like he's all been
experience.
catch and shoot this year. Like, don't move your feet, don't even jump, just take the shot on the catch. And he actually had a freaking dribble, step in, step back for the 3 against Damian Lillard off a swing.
He also had some great putbacks.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah. He got some fourth quarter offensive rebounds for sure for putbacks. That helped seal the game. Mm-hmm.
I think that's when the Portland Trailblazers, I think they were within 8 or something along those lines, and the Suns really needed a bucket right then because we know how the Suns team is, and
clank.
Yep, a lot of clanks all of a sudden, and you want to see a team lose an 18-point lead. I want to know statistically, has a team lost as many leads as the Suns have this season? Like, are they the absolute favorite in that?
Oh, I think there's a lot of those teams out there. We just don't watch them. But I remember a Suns team even just a few years ago was famous for building 20-point leads and then losing, and that was one of the bad teams too. Right. So I think we just feel like we're unique. Sacramento, I think, is feeling a lot of pain this year over lost games and stuff. So there's a few teams like that.
But the Suns treat leads like I treat my car keys. I lose them constantly. So the Suns
do tied. They're tied for the league lead in 1 possession losses with 8. And guess who they're tied with? They're tied with, I think it's the Kings is one of them, and the Mavericks is another. I was going to say
the Kings, yeah.
Which the Mavericks
is
crazy.
Which is crazy because I thought Luka was the best, clutch shooter ever. But they have 8 one-possession losses this year, and that's why people are projecting the Mavericks to actually be tougher in the playoffs potentially than it looks.
How many?
Although you got to argue.
How many one-possession wins do the Mavericks have?
Good question. I don't know. I just saw the stat on the losses. The Suns only have 2 one-possession wins.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to bring up the fact that the Suns could have had Porzingis and that other guy in Dallas, but yeah. Anyways,
well,
just for Dave's reaction.
Why not, Greg?
The only reason I brought that up,
enjoying a win, and let's just start talking about what could have been.
Does Aaron? Oh, go ahead, Tim.
Sorry, I was just going to say, did anyone think as well that this Frank Kaminsky injury was going to be like an entire season-long freaking injury?
No, poor guy. Monty just said earlier this week that he's a ways away still, and that's just not good. I feel bad for him. A fracture in your kneecap, that's tough. And bones don't heal very quickly, especially in that sensitive area. However, we did get some other good news just quickly on injuries. DeAndre Ayton should be back any day, any game. So it's just like one of his prior ankle injuries where he's out 2 to 5 games, which is great. And Kelly Oubre might even be back in a couple of, or like 3 weeks. And that's really good. So, positives.
So two things here. Even though Frank has been out, he had an impact on last night's game. Did you see during that Aron Baynes step back 3, he got off the bench and walked under the hoop like, are you not entertained? I thought that was the best part of the video clip of that Baynes thing is you see this figure slowly walking from the bench like that with his arms up. And I'm like, okay, that's spectacular that Frank is just like, yeah, even I'm impressed by this. And then did you
Frank
hear?
Is great, though. He is a really great. He's so good at celebrating on the sidelines, even with his injury. He doesn't dance anymore, obviously, but he is really a great guy to have around for that team.
Yeah, I feel like he's just been a positive impact in general, just
from
just
personality.
Yeah, being around. And then did you, Tim? I know you probably didn't, but Dave, did you catch James Jones on Doug and Wolf Friday morning talking about the Kelly Oubre injury?
I heard clips, and that sounds exactly like I thought originally.
The part that stood out to me was he goes, and I'm paraphrasing, this is not a direct quote because I was too lazy to actually write down the direct quote, but it was something to the effect of, yeah, the doctors say he should be on crutches, but Kelly is too cool of a guy. He's walking around with a cane.
He's so cool, yeah.
You're the general manager. I'm not sure that a guy trying to be cool should be the important thing. If the doctors are saying he should be on crutches, I'm thinking he probably should be on crutches. I don't know what you think, guys, but that stood out to me as a maybe just have him on the crutches rather than with the cane kind of thing. That made me laugh hearing about it.
Well, thinking of Kelly Oubre, I wish I could have seen him last night at the game, but I didn't run into him at all. But I would love to see. I could just imagine him flicking that cane back and forth, just being Mr. Cool. That sounds perfectly like him.
I mean, I just assumed Kelly Oubre carried around
a
cane anyway.
I would just look like I should have a cane because I'm old. But Kelly Oubre could make that cane look cool.
Oh, you know that's a bejeweled cane. That's a bad ass cane. It's a Valley Boys.
It probably
cane,
has a skull on it.
Yeah, it's that skull with the cowboy hat from the Valley Boys gear. He's gone all out, I'm sure. But yeah, that made me laugh. But yeah, Aron Baynes. Damn impressive. Congratulations on what was a night that I don't think any of us are going to forget or believe ever happened. So
he may not even believe it.
It's funny how much of a difference the recording of the show mood is dependent upon how the Suns did the night before.
Well, yeah. Look, it was a historically fun win, and we're just giddy.
Look, they could have lost last night. I'd still feel this way because Aron Baynes, that was just one of those performances you just have to laugh at in some way because you just don't expect it. Like, how in the world, if I had told you before the game, and said, I'll bet you a mortgage payment, right, that Aron Baynes is going to hit 9 threes and do something only James Harden has ever done in the NBA, you would have been like, yeah, I'll take that bet with you because you're an idiot.
I want to bring up, speaking of bets, Andrew Leasis, who's a Twitter guy. He's a big, huge Suns fan, and he lives and dies with the Suns. He actually said if Aron Baynes ever gets a 30-20 game, that he'll do an Aron Baynes face tattoo. And so the whole game we were all counting down the rebounds, and I'm like, do tap outs count?
that got uncomfortably close there. Yeah. Andrew's the guy that wrote the Kelly Oubre song as well.
Yes, he wrote the Kelly Oubre song. He
guy.
Really does live and die by the Suns, and I think he won the best Suns Twitter account contest as well that was put on last summer that the epic contest of all contests.
Hey, we have a YouTube listener comment.
We have a lot of them.
Hey, YouTubers!
This one is coming from Raymond Gonzalez. He said, you guys should rename the Donkey Award to the Donkey Award after Nate Duncan.
That's actually a great idea, and we're going to do that this episode. So it'll be the
Oh my
Donkey
gosh.
Award moving forward.
Maybe we should have been more clear
maybe
all
that
along.
is our Donkey Award for the show. It's a tight race this week. Lots of weird stuff going
personal,
on.
Raymond, but it
Nah.
has been the donkey.
It's all right, Raymond. We joke a lot around here. I also like. Did you see everybody in the chat?
Is Raymond the same dude? Is this the same dude that called into the John Bloom's post game last night? Did anyone hear that? You guys probably didn't.
No.
But I listened to it on my drive home. John Bloom does the Suns post game show on the radio, and he takes in callers, and most people were really happy. And then suddenly he gets this fan who's saying, this is the worst franchise in the history of franchises, blah, 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 blah. And Bloom just went off on the guy. And he finally asked him, who's your team? And the dude admitted he's a Lakers fan, and Bloom just cut him right off.
Bloomer. I miss the days sitting next to him on that show and taking calls when you're.
And when he gets mad, his voice's decibel rises and his pitch rises. It was great.
It takes a lot for him to get mad too on air. I could tell you because I said some stupid stuff sitting next to him, and it didn't piss him off. So, by the way, did you guys see the joke in the chat? We have one thumbs down on YouTube, and everybody assumes Nate Duncan stopped by to give us his thoughts on the show. So, thank you, Nate. We appreciate
the donkey thumb.
Yeah. Did we lose Tim again?
Well, let's move on to our next segment.
Or do we want to? Or let me ask one last Aron Baynes thing. And
okay.
I was wondering this a lot last night, and it's a question I've gone back.
Splash Volcano, by the way. I think that's incredibly good.
Well, it's better than Luke Longley, the blunder from down under. So it's a Splash Volcano works. But let's look. It's a question I've been thinking about a lot this season. Do you actually re-sign Aron Baynes or not? And does last night have any impact on that? I know it would be irrational to think that it would swing you massively, but it was a reminder of who he was at the beginning of the season when he was healthy. I go back and forth on whether the Suns should use part of their cap space this summer to bring Aron Baynes back, or if there's a better option at backup center that's younger, that's a long-term fit.
I don't think you need to worry about long-term fits when it comes to your backup center, especially when you have somebody like DeAndre Ayton, who is clearly going to be the player moving forward. Now, if your starting center was Aron Baynes, it would make more sense to look for a player that is more your long-term.
I totally agree, and I actually. The Suns have his bird rights, Aron Baynes. They could re-sign him with those bird rights after they've reached the cap. So they can spend and then still bring him back. I would bring him back. I mean, I'd even pay $10 million a year for a year or two, as long as he'll take a short-term deal. I'd give him all the money because he's great in that locker room. They need him because he's always he and Ricky are voices of the coach, basically, because they are the veterans in the lineup. Everybody else is so young and still learning how to win games. Him and Ricky are the ones who know how to win those games, and they're just not the best players on the court, obviously. And so the Suns need veterans like him to help prop up the team going forward. And I think he's made a huge difference this year. I think even though DeAndre Ayton gets credit on his own for becoming better as a defender and a player overall, and Mark Bryan as the Suns' lead assistant on helping on DeAndre Ayton grow, has been great for DeAndre Ayton. Aron Baynes has been huge for him too, and I think another year of that can only benefit Ayton as well. And Ayton's under cost control for a few years, so. I would definitely bring Aron Baynes back if he wants to come back.
I honestly was on the fence before last night because I was not sure.
Before last night?
Well, just honestly because I wasn't sure if the beginning of the season was just a complete fluke because he had gone so MIA for such a long period of time. And with how tight-lipped the Suns are in terms of what injuries actually are this year, it wasn't very clear that there was anything, that serious, still lingering with it. So you look at, like you mentioned, he had only hit 9 threes in all of 2020 before Friday night's game, and I just wondered. Did we all just buy too much into the hype early on, and is he really not a guy that can have a big impact? Now we're not going to see a night like Friday night ever again, and we probably won't see the kind of impact he had in that 7-4 start. But at least a consistent guy that can shoot as a backup is something that you definitely want with Ayton. So last night made me go, okay, this guy, when healthy, still is better than what we saw the first 2 months of 2020, and that's kind of what shifted my thinking. Not just the fact that he went off last night, but that okay, there when healthy, he still is some semblance of the guy we saw at the beginning of the year.
We have a listener question on YouTube. This one is coming from Everything Horror. He says, and I honestly didn't know about this, so I'm hoping that you guys do. Do you guys think there's a conspiracy with Kelly Oubre like Bickley thinks?
No. There's no conspiracy.
Not at all. Look, this team is different now. Monty Williams, all those guys, they don't want to be tanking games. Nobody wants people to be missing games. They want to finish this season strong. You have to set a new culture so that next year can be even better. If you just spend the rest of this year just tanking and resting guys and all that, then you haven't learned a damn thing. So no, I think Bickley is wrong in the conclusion that they're milking the Kelly Oubre thing, that it's a shadow injury, all that. No, the Suns are playing, and the fact that Aron Baynes played 30-some minutes last night, that Devin Booker's been averaging 38 minutes, that Ricky Rubio's been over 30 minutes a game, they're not tanking out this season in any way, shape, or form. And they're going to play hard until the final week. Now, in the final week, you may end up seeing more Ty Jerome than you ever wanted to see, or Elie Okobo, but until then, these guys are going to win as many games as they can, and they've got their own personal milestones. They don't necessarily want to tell us, but I am 100% sure that they want to reach 30 wins, and I'm 100% sure that they then want to get 34 or 33 so that they can have less than 50 losses. I think there are mini milestones that you don't say out loud because it's kind of embarrassing to say that your goal is to reach 30 wins. But these are mini milestones. These guys really want to win every game going out the rest of the year for sure.
Dave, can we be clear? I've already seen more of Elie Okobo and probably Ty Jerome than I've ever wanted to see.
Christ.
So.
In a game where everyone played well, Elie Okobo tried to personally lose it for the Suns. It's so frustrating.
But there is no conspiracy theory. Do you really think a team is lying about a guy getting knee surgery?
He wanted a second opinion.
I didn't say that their doctors are the greatest. I'm just saying I don't think they lied that he actually had the surgery.
No, you always do a second opinion before a surgery. You absolutely have to, especially with meniscus, because there's different kinds of meniscus injuries you can have. Some are less egregious than others. Within that same meniscus, where it is depends, because in some places you have good blood flow, and other parts of it you have bad blood flow. You've got to get multiple opinions and get the right surgery, or you're out even longer and you have complications. So, and the Suns are not surgeons. They are medical they are trainers. They're rehab people. They are not highly specialized surgeons. That's why you go out for other opinions.
But back to the conspiracy. They're not faking this. They're not just pretending that there was some surgery or that this was an injury that required this. I mean, there's no point in that. And if they were trying to tank in some way, you don't just take one guy out. All of a sudden there'd be all sorts of fake injuries. We saw this. I mean, when they sat Eric Bledsoe starting in March, the beginning of March a few years ago, and then subsequently shut down Booker, and it was very systematic. And this is not like that. This is not a team that's trying to lose on purpose. This is not a draft that you try to lose on purpose for. And James Jones says he hates draft picks anyways. It's not his thing and how to build teams. So why would that be the strategy? after 10 years of such ineptitude, everybody wants to think there's something larger when this stuff happens because it's hard to believe that this team isn't trying to do something stupid, and they're just not. This is not the case. This is not 4
No,
or
I
5
think the
years
first
ago.
stupid opportunity will be July.
Oh, yes.
That'll be the stupid opportunity.
And I'm sure something stupid will happen. And I believe that's our next segment, is discuss what potential stupid moves they could make in July, right?
Well, segmenting, actually, our next segment is Stat of the Week.
Stat of the week.
Stat of the week!
All right. So this is going to be looking at small sample size theater. But given Aron Baynes' huge night, I thought it would be worth noting some of the starting lineups with Aron Baynes compared to some of the starting lineups without Aron Baynes. So let's talk about.
We're not going here, are we?
The Suns starting lineup of Ricky Rubio, Kelly Oubre, Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, and DeAndre Ayton. 121 offensive rating, 101 defensive rating for a total plus 20 net rating. Now let's go ahead and compare that with Ricky Rubio, Aron Baynes, Dario Saric, Devin Booker, and Mikal Bridges. That is a positive 35 net rating. Okay. But let's say that you want to go a little bit different and you want to actually compare apples to apples. Just the only person you're going to replace is Baynes with DeAndre Ayton. That is a positive 26 net rating. So what we basically have here is the Suns should probably try and trade DeAndre Ayton, and Aron Baynes is a better starting center.
Well, let me tell you. Can I tell you? The only really good predictive starting lineups or lineup combinations is when you get over 300 or 400 minutes, if not 500 minutes in a season. The 5-man lineup with Rubio, Oubre, Booker, Bridges, and Ayton, that's a plus 20. That was best in the league. 4 lineups that are over 150 minutes together. Yes, that's great. That's plus 20. And that was 4 lineups that are over that mark. And they only played 226 minutes together because of the injuries. These other 2 lineups you talk about, Tim, as you already wrote in the thing, small sample size theater, 25 minutes and 51 minutes. I mean, anything can happen. Remember when Eli Okobo had the best plus minus on the team for about a month?
No.
I do. The first month, 6 weeks of the season, Eli Okobo in his 3 minutes a game somehow ended up with one of the best plus minuses on the team and kept it almost through Christmas. And you know Eli Okobo, and he does not deserve to be the best plus minus on the team.
Well, I'm glad that Tim, you took a few minutes to read an excerpt from a Valley of the Suns piece here on.
Hey,
now, hold on. You know I don't read.
Well, that's true. You must have found it's something that reads it to you. But honestly,
podcast.
We all know that this is a joke, and we know that you don't really feel that, Tim. But there are people out there that will make this argument and seriously make this argument.
They have on Suns Facebook groups.
Yeah, probably on Suns Reddit too, and other places in the dark corners of the internet. Let's just stop this. I mean, look at
Aron Baynes' best. He's a good player. At DeAndre Ayton's best, he's a great player. And he's just scratching the surface. Aron Baynes obviously has done some things at age 33 that he's never done before. We just talked about Friday night's game. We just talked about the first 2 months of the season where Aron Baynes was hitting 50% of his threes for a long time. That's great. But it also shows you that guys continue to get better as their career goes on, and DeAndre Ayton is just scratching the surface. So, look, I'm happy if people are thrilled with Aron Baynes. I just wish you didn't have to tear down somebody else to prove your point on how good a player is. I'm just tired of it.
You know what I'd love is if DeAndre Ayton and Aron Baynes could find their rhythm at the same time. It'd be really nice.
No, I just wish that we could just mash them together into a single person, because Aron Baynes does everything Ayton doesn't, and Ayton does everything Aron Baynes doesn't. And yet Ayton is learning from Baynes, and he's learning how to do some of those things that Baynes is doing, and I really, really like that.
Yeah.
But if you could mash the two together into a single human being, you'd be like Thanos with all the Infinity Stones.
And you'd have a pretty awesome orange beard on DeAndre Ayton right now. By the way,
there's that.
I just want somebody Photoshop that for me. I need to see that. By the way, everything horror clarified. He says that Bickley thinks there's a disconnect between the team and Kelly with the injury, which again, I don't think that's necessarily the case either. To Dave's point, everybody seeks second opinions when it comes to surgery, and I don't think there's a rift here.
Also, that training staff has been trash this year.
They really have. Hopefully they'll get better in their careers as well. But man, that training staff has been.
I'd have.
You're injured? Let's just see what happens.
I mean, jeez.
It's their rookie year too. All right, leave them alone.
Oh my God.
All right, so let's do Gorilla Time. By the way, thank you so much to listener Theo for helping us rename the segment from middle segment.
Gorilla Time.
I think we need like a halftime act right before the Gorilla Time, or I need to like get for the YouTube audience some graphic of the gorilla jumping
do
across
the
the
grunting.
screen.
That's all. We got.
I'm not grunting
this
like
just
that.
like we do the stat of the week.
I am not grunting with you at the same time.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And we now know more about Dave than we ever wanted to.
Let's talk about heading into the summer with the assumption that the Suns do hit this 30-game win mark. My opinion is that the problem with the Suns team starts and ends with the bench. I do not think there's any sort of issue that they have with the starting lineup. I don't think they need to make any drastic starting lineup changes. You look at all of the advanced statistics. Yes, a lot of those lineups aren't hitting 300 minutes. Regardless, the starting lineup has been fine. The eye test matches this. The advanced statistics matches. So therefore, when we're talking about what the Suns do going into the summer, in my opinion anyway, and you guys feel free to differ with me, we're really talking about what they can do around the edges to make this team a bit better. A question that Dave had in there is, do they double down on switchy athletes like the Suns starting lineup of Aiden, Oubre, and Bridges, so focusing on guys
across
like
that front line, yeah.
Right. Grant, Aaron Gordon, although I don't think Aaron Gordon's quite all that switchy of a player, but he is athletic, obviously. Or did they go for more traditional, tightly positioned players?
Hold on, let's not bury the lead that your big limb that you went out on is the Suns bench isn't very good. I appreciate the analysis there, Tim.
Well, no, listen. When I get on Suns Twitter, unfortunately, you have all these people that are complaining about the Suns starters, and take your pick that week who that Suns starter they're going to complain about is. But the Suns starting lineup is not the issue.
No, it really isn't, and I totally agree with that. What we found out over the course of this season is that with Rubio and Booker leading the way with this offense, the Suns are first in the league in assists, first in the league in assist percentage, all these passing level stats because they're really good at moving the ball around. So what you need is front line guys who can help support that, but also who can play defense on the other end of the court, and because the NBA is all about doing switches and getting your worst defender on an island. Being able to play guys who can do that, which includes DeAndre Ayton, by the way, and does not necessarily include Aron Baynes, and definitely doesn't really include Dario Saric or Frank Kaminsky. But the more switchy your defenders can be, the better. I mean, the NBA has known about that for a long time. We're not, this isn't new ground that we're breaking here. But I think if you bring in more athletic, switchy guys for that kind of style, then you don't have to change your style between the offense, between the first unit and the second unit. You need another longer, switchier guy at backup point guard too. Sorry to Elie Okobo. But Ty Jerome's a really smart dude, but he can't be your, the guy you allow to be on an island defensively. And definitely Elie Okobo, just, I don't know where he's got to go, but not in Phoenix. You've got to have more range athletically on that second unit, and those guys are out there. And the Suns don't have to bring in, break the bank to bring guys in. I mean, Aaron Gordon is somebody the Suns just keep for some reason targeting, and so that's why I keep bringing him up. He would be helpful. He definitely would be helpful. He would be athletically stylish in terms of getting big dunks every once in a while. He can make threes. He doesn't make a ton of them, but neither did some of the other Suns players. And he plays good defense, and he can do it in space. It's just his offensive game does not equate to a small forward. So he's not. I know Tim's point is not. He's not as switchy as you might think, but he is athletic and he does help that mold.
I wonder how he would look next to DeAndre Ayton, because since he's not really a 3-point shooter, I believe he's shooting 31%. It's just not. It's not ideal, because you want a floor spacer most likely next to him. If I'm going to go out and try to pursue a power forward, and I've said the name before on the show, I think Lauri Markkanen makes more sense of what you're looking to try to accomplish there. And if you do that, then you're looking at moving McHale or Oubre or somebody as your sixth man to give the bench a little bit more depth in that way, and I'd be all right with that. Although I am falling in love with Mikal Bridges' game. The more we watch him, the more you see the evolution of him, especially since with Oubre out, you get to see him take a more active role on offense. That guy has every tool that you could want out of your small forward, your starting small forward on both ends of the court. I think we're looking at the evolution of something potentially special there with him. So the only spot you're looking at upgrading is power forward potentially, if you're not a true believer in Oubre and Bridges next to each other in a starting lineup. Now the numbers, the advanced numbers suggest that they are a great starting lineup together. I'm just not sure if the eye test for James Jones and the staff are gonna say the same thing, because reports, I believe it was Shams Charania, again reported on Friday that the Suns were very much active at the end of the trade deadline trying to get Aaron Gordon, likely would revisit in the offseason. So to me that says that this is obviously this this front office isn't prepared to fully buy into that starting lineup. But to me, I don't know that Aaron Gordon next to DeAndre Ayton makes long-term sense, and how the offense works with two guys that are going to operate more in that paint area rather than spreading it out with DeAndre as well.
I disagree to an extent. For one, that's going under the assumption that neither one ever really develops the three, but that's also, I think, going under the assumption that the only thing that those two guys can do are a Twin Towers-esque offensive game that you had with Alex Lynn and Tyson Chandler when you had them. Like, while yeah, they aren't necessarily spacing out the floor, and DeAndre at this point in his career certainly isn't spacing out the floor, that doesn't mean that the two can't operate, because Aaron Gordon is a bit more versatile, and so is Ayton, frankly, on some of those mid-range shots than those traditional I can only dunk. This isn't like a Derek Favors situation.
No, I agree. They're both versatile. They're not traditional only can stand there, but DeAndre Ayton's never shot a three in the league. Aaron Gordon's proving
he's never made a three.
He never made a three in the league. Aaron Gordon has proven that he's not a consistent shooter. We have more than enough.
Would you rather spend 25 million, 28, 30 million on Danilo Gallinari, or 18 million on Aaron Gordon?
18
and
million
then the other
Aaron
10
Gordon.
million on somebody else.
Oh, no, hands down, 18 million on Aaron Gordon. Younger, gives you more financial flexibility, and I believe he only has 2 years left on the deal, so you get to see, hey, does he fit, and before committing a larger amount to him as well. I'd much rather go that route than Danilo Gallinari. I think that would be a giant mistake to throw a huge amount of money at Gallinari to come in and play, because he's far too old at this point, and he has an injury history. That would just scare me off from that. But if we're talking about trying to acquire via trade a younger option, I don't know. Aaron Gordon is intriguing. His athleticism certainly would be fun to watch here in Phoenix, and it's just trying to figure out, okay, how would this all fit together? This team already, with the exception of Friday night, obviously, but has not been the most prolific three-point shooting or scoring team this season, and I think it's a big gap in what they need to do moving into next year, and I just don't think Aaron Gordon fills that. Now you could wind up getting a bunch of sharpshooters on the bench that you sign as well, and that resolves that part of the problem. But a lot of questions in terms of how would that work. But you guys are fully sold on the current starting lineup being the right mix and only going after bench? Or?
I personally am sold. Tim can speak for himself, but I being part of your top 7, that 5 being part of your top 7, Cam Johnson being a 6th, and then another guy who can play in that same role in that top 7, and then everybody else kind of fits in behind them, including Aron Baynes is not in that top 7. So he'd be 8th or 9th or 10th. I think that's great. I personally am sold on that. I don't know exactly about a starting lineup versus top 7.
Gotcha.
I think that if the Suns can go out and get somebody like an Aaron Gordon, that you do that 10 times out of 10, right? So as much as being sold on it, and so therefore refusing to upgrade talent, no. I don't think that, and I don't think a team should ever be in that position regardless of who their starting lineup is. But from a priority standpoint, I do not think that the Suns should be focusing solely on the starting lineup.
Yeah, and I mean, also
like, holy shit, get a backup guard, guys. Like,
right. Right.
Hey, it took him 5 years to get a starting guard. I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give him another offseason to find a backup.
But just get one. Like.
Yeah, I also am not interested in trading out of this starting 5 to get just a different looking starting 5. There's that rumor that Orlando wanted Kelly Oubre for Aaron Gordon. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that trade.
I don't hate it. I would have done the trade. I would have done the trade.
I don't think I would
to give
that.
up. You're going to have to give up something. Well, would you rather?
Well, it depends. I mean, maybe Aaron or Orlando really just wants to move on and get assets. I mean, I'd trade the Suns' first round pick for.
They don't. They want a player, which means you're going to have to trade. Like, if you're going to get Aaron Gordon, you have to give something up for it. That's just the way it works. And they want a player. They don't just want a draft pick, which means you're going to have to give up a Cam Johnson, a Mikal Bridges, or a Kelly Oubre in order to get that done realistically. And which one of them would you not be willing to part with to get Aaron Gordon?
Mikal Bridges. I wouldn't part with him to get Aaron Gordon in any scenario.
Well, I'd have a tough time parting with any of the 3. I don't think Aaron Gordon is that much of a difference maker. If you can get, someone with your cap space instead, I just don't.
I don't think they can. Or else they just would. Right?
Jeremy Grant's out there. I mean,
yeah, Jeremy Grant's a fine player. If it were me, I would. If it was something, if you got an indication from Aaron Gordon he was willing to sign after the 2 years, I would part ways with any of those 3 players to get him.
Well, I mean,
not a combination of those 3 players, but any one single of those 3 players. He's an upgrade, and I don't know how much time you guys have actually had a chance to see Aaron Gordon in person. I realize you're in Arizona; the Magic only come through once a year, but go watch this kid play. He's a beast. He is a damn good player.
Well, I was at that dunk contest in Toronto, and the athleticism is unbelievable for sure. And I'm sure that when you watch him on a regular basis, you see flashes of that in the game as well. Look, I don't know that I'd be fully against Kelly Oubre for Aaron Gordon for multiple reasons, but I'm still not 100% convinced he's the answer. I think he makes you better, but how much better is the question. But Tim, you're 100% right. You don't just sit on a starting lineup if you have a chance to improve it. Look at Golden State. They were one of the best teams in the league, and then they didn't sit around. They added Kevin Durant. Everybody should have that mentality. If you can add a better piece of talent to your starting lineup, you do it regardless of where you're sitting. And the Suns, in reality, are a 30 to 35 win team this year at best. So why would you just sit there on a starting lineup because you're like, hey, it won us this many games. Like, it's not like you're breaking up
No. That starting lineup did not just win 30, 35 games. That starting lineup barely had any time together this year. 200 some minutes is basically the equivalent of 5 games. Look, they did not get enough time together to show that they are a 30 to 35 win starting lineup. Let's not exaggerate that.
No, but my point is, we're not talking about a team that's sitting in championship contention right now.
No,
you do
but
have to
they're
get better,
also
and
young,
that small.
They're going to get better every year. I said I'm a big fan of keeping them together as 5 of your top 7. I wouldn't trade them.
I agree that
then
they're
you don't
young,
get a better
they can
player.
get better. And your point
Sure,
that
you can get better players.
your point about minutes, that they didn't play that also means this could swing heavily the other way, and they're really not as good of a group together as everybody thinks.
Well, they're probably not the best in the NBA. I totally agree with that.
No.
But you can tell that their chemistry when they play together is really good, and it's above average, and that's important.
They're probably not the best in the NBA.
I think it's a fair assessment. Dave, I'm proud that you don't just buy into the analytics wholeheartedly. Thank you for that. Much appreciated.
But
likely not the
good.
best. Yeah, I agreed there. But I think you have to find a way to improve this team. If you get the opportunity to get somebody that could slide into that top, Dave, even if we're talking top 7, that's better than the guys that you have there now, you take the chance. Now, debatable whether Aaron Gordon's that guy, but you have to find improvement, and I think you're going to have to find it in more than just adding a few nice pieces on that bench to take that next step in the Western Conference, because it's not getting any easier than it was this year to make the playoffs.
Question for you guys. Let's say the Thunder this summer do what they were supposed to do during the year, which is kind of trade out for further assets, and they decide they want to swap out Chris Paul. Would you take Chris Paul in exchange for Rubio and the Suns' first-round pick?
Nope.
No.
Too much money and too many question marks with his health and age.
That dude is a freaking winner, though, man.
There's no denying that, but if he has, with what we saw from the Suns training staff this year and the number of injuries, if he has an injured-riddled season, you've now put yourself back in a position where you were 2 years ago, where you have absolutely no point guard. That would be my fear with that. I'm of the crazy mindset. Go out and yes, I have a soft spot for this guy, but go out and throw some money at Goran Dragic and let him and Rubio battle it out for who starts.
You and Bloomer. I was just talking to him last night, John Bloom, about this, and God, he's praying for Goran Dragic to come back.
Think about it. You ride with that for the next 2 years while you try to find a long-term answer, and I think that solves a lot of what you're looking at.
You mean Dragic in place of Rubio?
No, together. One of
of them
is your backup, one of them is your starter.
Dragic has more injury issues than Chris Paul does.
No, I'm saying you have both of them on the roster, and you let them battle out for who's starter, who's backup. And when inevitably one of them is injured, the other one hopefully isn't, and they fill in, and now you've got a palatable situation for the next 2 years while you develop LeCue or whoever your long term is, and it solves some of the bench issue too, because you have a floor leader there too.
Can I talk about LeCue just a little bit?
You can. You're part of the show. Go for it.
Thank you. I was so impressed with him in Summer League last year. He had just turned 19 years old, barely eligible for the draft this year, because you have to be 19 in the calendar year you're drafted. He goes to Summer League, and he looked good. He looked like he knew what he was doing. He was making the right reads. He was playing defense without fouling. He was showing athleticism. He was kind of like a supercharged Archie Goodwin. Then in G League this year, he spent almost the entire year there, and he's one of the worst in the G League, and I feel bad for him. I feel like he just isn't quite ready for the big time. Hopefully, he just needs a year of adjustment, kind of like Ty Jerome needs a year of adjustment to the NBA. We can cross our fingers on those things. But I really hope Jalen LeCue has a great Summer League this summer and then comes back a different player next year.
It's not great when you need a year to adjust to the G League, though. That's not
I know
as promising as you'd
hoped. Makes me feel bad because I was excited about LeCue.
Yeah, he's still young. He was raw. They knew that coming in. Hopefully, they give
one of my
him...
best Twitter follows, Michael Rhodes, is every every week or two, hey, it's LeCue time. No, it's not LeCue time. It's not even LeCue time in the G League.
Yeah.
Hey guys, we're going up on an hour. Should we do the Donkey Award?
The donkey. No, the donkey award is well, that sound still works for the donkey award as well. I mean, so this week it's Rich Anthony at @true_rise on Twitter says Josh Jackson has contributed more to winning basketball than Devin Booker has. We're not blaming the player here either way.
Oh my God.
I'm really surprised you didn't go with the Suns this week, honestly.
Oh well, the Suns they deleted it, so I don't know how. I'll share that one as well. The Suns tweeted to our friend Alan Williams, Big Sauce. He tweeted,
Oh, God.
"Hey, can I get one of them Devin Booker All-Star jerseys?" Right? Being playful with it, tweeting the team. They said, we're out of them, but we got a bobblehead with your name on it, implying they had no clue who Alan Williams was.
Or they did, and that was just their response.
Which was the dumbest joke ever if that were the case. And my guess is they didn't know, because you don't delete it if it was a joke. You just go, no, we were just joking around, Alan, whatever. You don't delete it if it wasn't a joke. They just didn't know Alan Williams was a former Sun. But I forgive that, because sometimes you got young people don't know the history of the team running social accounts, and that's a team's choice to put them in that position. And I don't necessarily blame the person, because I'll tell you guys a little story time with Espo.
Story time with Espo.
There's a lot of things that happen when you're running a social media account. In the heat of things, you're reading through things, you reply to people. One time, and it wasn't me, it was somebody else who was working on the Suns account, but I learned a valuable lesson from it. The team account replied to a porn star who was talking to it, and basically had a conversation with said adult star. So I learned from that, again, I wasn't the one talking, but I'm not going to out the person that was, that you got to check everybody that you're discussing and look at the profile before you respond from a team account, because inadvertently you could do something stupid.
That is a very legal profession. It's completely honorable. What's the issue with someone like
that is the most Floridian response to that story
Florida
ever.
Florida man defends prostitution. Or not prostitution, but porn movie.
There are people too. They just because of what they do for a living, the Suns can't reply to them. I don't know. I don't agree with that.
I think it's branding, right? It's a branding thing. It's all about who you want your brand tied to. But the story's not over though, gentlemen. I've got a fun one for you still that pertains to this.
Oh, we're still in the story time.
Because of that practice, right? I would check every person I was trying to respond to during a game just to make sure I didn't step in it in any way. So I get a response during a game. I'm sitting courtside, right next to John Bloom, right behind Al McCoy. That was where I was lucky enough to sit. So 5,000 people sitting behind me in two sections that could basically see the laptop I was on. I click on this profile, and it does happen to be an amateur porn star with all sorts of questionable pictures. So I think 5,000 people thought I was so very bored during a Suns game.
How do you know the amateurs versus the pros?
It was just a guess. It didn't feel like a professional level. Not that I know what that is, but let's not go there.
Yeah,
but
not that you
I think
know
5,000 people, 5,000 of my closest friends at Talking Stick Resort Arena thought I was really just bored during a Suns game, which happened a lot in my 5 years there. But
it is easy to forget that people can see your screen from behind. Yeah. I mean, I'm at the top. I'm toward the top, like 2/3 up in Section 101 with the rest of the media schlubs, and there's people behind me too. And sometimes they lean in and go, "Hey, what are you working on?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, there are people who can see my screen."
Yeah.
So I will make sure I'm not looking at the porn too.
Well, no, not on purpose. But anyways, back to the donkey. I forgive the Suns for their discretion.
You mean I'm not home alone in the middle of the night? Darn it.
but Rich Anthony, Josh Jackson has not contributed to better basketball than Devin Booker has. Let's not even play this dumb game where we're trying to pull that off. I'm not. you win a donkey, and
I'm sorry, but I stopped. I muted that guy a long time ago because of the craziness.
Yeah, that's not his first trash take.
no,
Sure.
but now he has hardware to go with the trash
Yeah.
take. Enjoy the
The
donkey.
Donkey Award!
I feel like we need to actually get one created. That could just sit back here on the shelf. A donkey award. If anybody out there wants to design one, maybe we'll get it created. But
No,
the
we need a
donkey
digital
award.
one that we can send to people after they receive the award.
What I'm saying is somebody design what they think it should look like. We'll send the digital out, and then
There
I'll
you
have an
go.
actual one
So
made
would
that
it
can sit
be
here in the
a
studio.
donkey with Nate Duncan's head?
Oh.
No, not a donkey, a donkey.
Either we can figure
Or
it
Nate
out.
Duncan being dunked into a basket?
I think it would have to have in it some sort of rendition of that picture of Nate Duncan and Danny LaRue
It should just be that
wearing their
picture.
jeans and their polo.
But
Like-
let's be honest. This has evolved past Nate. This is now a thing of its own. The donkey stands on its own, with or without the bad takes of what originated it. The people just love the donkey award.
100%, but the logo should still represent the initial.
Yeah.
It should be a
meaning
nod to
behind
the past. It
Yeah,
should.
nod to the past. So, perhaps taking that picture and making it into some sort of cartoon-esque something with the donkey on it. I don't know. I think it's interesting though, and if
Like
there
a dunk
are,
emoji.
I tell you what, if there are any graphic designers out there that can do this for us and we actually like it and we use it, you can spend some time on it, do it, send me your address, and I will personally send you, again, some Sun swag, the same for anybody that decides they want to be a supporter of the show.
I've got a couple of
hitting-
bobbleheads too here.
do you have a Devin Booker one?
I do.
Do you have an extra Devin Booker one?
Not an extra one, no.
Just send it to Tim, all right? Tim
Dude,
puts
let me
in
get-
so
hold
much
on,
effort on this.
hold on.
Oh,
I-
I'm going to give it to Tim in Vegas this summer.
No, I need one because this is my only Suns bobblehead.
You don't have the other half of that? You just have Marcus? You didn't even get the...
And I'll get Ricky tomorrow, but these are the ones I've got.
Let's be honest. The street clothes, there could not have been a better theme for Suns bobbleheads this year with how many injuries there
clothes,
were.
yeah.
These guys in street clothes.
Yeah,
I only wish...
I'm bummed I don't have DeAndre Ayton's from last year. His was pretty dope too.
I only wish...
Look at the head of Marcus Morris on here. All they did was get a black guy.
Well, and it's certainly not big enough. I mean,
We're not going to follow up on that one.
Well, I mean, I'm just like they seriously. He doesn't look like that.
How
They
about
just
the
gotta
Morris
make sure-
brothers going to be going deep in the playoffs yet again for teams?
And Eric Bledsoe, don't forget about that. And there's all sorts of former Suns. PJ Tucker.
Hey,
Tyson
speaking of former
Chandler.
Suns, so all these guys are going to be available this summer. Who would you go after first? Marquise Chris, Dragan Bender, Alex Len, DeAnthony Melton, Josh Jackson, and the Morai.
DeAnthony Melton in a heartbeat. Yeah, I
Have
wouldn't
you
even,
actually
I wouldn't even
looked at
call
his
the rest
stats?
of them. I don't even.
would hit like
it
25% on
depends.
threes since the turn of the year.
Dude, Alex Len is a backup center. If you didn't keep Baynes,
Look,
honestly,
I love.
not terrible.
I actually love Alex the guy. I would not begrudge
Alex, the guy.
bringing
I actually really
Alex
liked
back.
Marquise Chris as a guy too.
I didn't get a chance to know Marquise, but I do hold it against him that it cost you Bogdanovich to get.
Oh,
him,
the Suns
so.
could sign Bogdan and bring Marquise
Oh,
back.
look at that. We're just solving the world's
Bogdan's
problems.
available this summer too as a restricted free agent, but you'd have to pay over $10 million a year at least to get.
I do own an authentic Bogdanovich Suns jersey, so maybe I will root for him to come back.
Is it authentic if he never wore it?
It was made specifically for him, so yes, it is.
All right. And on that note, we are out of here, gentlemen. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining on YouTube. Remember, if you're listening to the podcast version, you want to join us live, we're live every Saturday at 7 o'clock Arizona time. Follow us on Twitter, right, at Sun Solar Panel. We tweet out the link there, so it's super easy to find. You can also just go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube chat as well. But hopefully we have a bit of a more successful week this week, and even if we don't, hopefully the time that we record is after a Suns win.
Wash your hands, don't cough on everybody, and we'll see you next week.